Hey friends in beauty, if you're a professional makeup artist or beauty pro who is tired of juggling multiple tools to run your business, I got great news for you. Beauty Pro Funnels is here to simplify your life and take your business to the next level. Unlike other platforms like Wigs, Squarespace, or Acuity, Beauty Pro Funnels was created by a makeup artist for makeup artists. This is the world's first all-in-one software that helps you book clients, sell your products, and even launch courses all in one place. No need for separate subscriptions that drain your wallet or tools that don't speak your language as a beauty pro. With Beauty Pro Funnels, you're not just getting another booking tool. You're unlocking the ability to create multiple revenue streams, so whether you're behind the chair or not, you're making money. Imagine accepting bookings, selling your beauty products, and offering courses all without the stress of managing separate systems. That could be a big headache. Let me break it down to you one more time. Your website, build it on Beauty Pro Funnels. Your portfolio, build it on Beauty Pro Funnels. Your booking site, build it on Beauty Pro Funnels. And your e-commerce site, host it in Beauty Pro Funnels. Want to offer beauty courses or digital products? You can sell them inside of Beauty Pro Funnels, and you'll be able to send invoices, digital contracts, newsletters, and do all of your marketing directly from your Beauty Pro Funnels account. It's mind-blowing. Listen, you're going to save hundreds of dollars every single month by replacing over 10 platforms when you make the switch to Beauty Pro Funnels like Wix, Squarespace, Acuity, WordPress, Vagaro, Honeybooks, 17 Hats, Dubsado, MailChimp, Klaviyo, Kajabi, DocuSign, even Shopify. It's crazy. I know you got at least one of those. And here's the best part. Tayana and her team spent over a year building plug-and-play templates into your account for pretty much everything, so you never have to start from scratch at all. So all of your appointment confirmations, reminders, and payment reminders and stuff like that for your clients, they have already been written out for you. You can even gather reviews and referrals all on autopilot. You'll free up so many hours of time each week so you can focus on what you love, your artistry. Plus, with their mobile app, you can manage your entire business from the palm of your hand. Send invoices, schedule appointments, and even take payments on the go. I believe in Beauty Pro Funnels so much that I recently moved the Friends of Beauty site to Beauty Pro Funnels, and I am loving it. It's a game changer because it's not just a platform. I swear it is like having your personal business assistant designed specifically for makeup artists and beauty pros like you. So here's the deal. If you want to see what all the hype is about, visit getbeautyprofunnels.com/friends to get a personalized tour and see how Beauty Pro Funnels can transform your business today. That's getbeautyprofunnels.com/friends because you deserve the best tool for your beauty business.
At that point, we'd have back-to-back fittings. I think we totaled 2,500 fittings. Yes,
What?
2,500 fittings. I know. I was collaborating with Sharon, the costume designer, and we were like, the number, it was huge. And we had all of these ladies in big, like high fashion or avant-garde hairstyles, and they had to be, you had to sew them in and they were flying through the air. They were, they had, rubble thrown on them or, just kind of big fight sequences. They were lifted in the air. It all kind of, and I have to say, not one wig was ripped, not one came off, and we used a lot of her stuff. Pat McGrath, Giorgio Armani, and I started playing with all of these different foundations and correctors, and I'd have to say Danessa Myricks and Fenty were probably the biggest foundation range that I would use for a lot of the different diverse and ethnic cast. And
When it comes to being a department head and being in the union, do the rules not apply with having to choose one field? Because I know, like with the union, you normally have to choose hair or makeup, or you have to choose one.
Yeah. So so I'm not in the union because I don't work in the US. Yeah.
Oh, so you all don't have a union?
No, we don't have a union. No. So
that's like a good thing, kind of.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Friends in Beauty podcast, a safe space for ambitious beauty industry creatives to have real talk, get authentic answers, and practical tools to grow their businesses. Join me every week as me and my special guest reveal the keys to longevity and success in the beauty industry, from the ups and downs of their journey to the nitty-gritty of their struggles and triumphs. We're spilling the tea on it all, and most importantly, having fun while doing it. You ready? Hey, what's up? It's your best friend in beauty, Aquia Robinson. Welcome back to another episode of the Friends in Beauty podcast. I am so happy to have you here, and I hope you're listening to this episode in high spirits and in good health. Now, on today's episode, we have the pleasure of having Davina Lamont in the Friends in Beauty guest chair. So Davina is the department head behind the jaw-dropping transformations in season 3 of Amazon Prime's The Wheel of Time. From managing 400 wigs and complex fight scenes to designing otherworldly prosthetic effects, Davina doesn't just create characters, she builds entire visual worlds. We're diving into her incredible journey from makeup artist to department head, and how she leads large creative teams, and what it really takes to bring fantasy to life on screen. I am so excited to talk to her. Welcome to the Friends of Beauty podcast, Davina.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to join you today.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you. When I saw the trailer and the effects and all of the drama that is involved with the show, I was like, oh wow, I got to talk to her. And you're just doing amazing work. So I'm so excited to meet you and just dive into it.
Yeah, let's go.
Yes. Well, before we start chatting, we're going to start off with some icebreakers to get us warmed up. And so the Friends and Beauty audience could get to know you a little bit outside of what you do professionally.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
first one, just give us 3 random facts about you.
3 random facts. I'm from Aotearoa, New Zealand.
No,
I am an adventurous and I love to travel.
I love that. What's one of your favorite places you traveled to?
You know what? There's been so many. We shot some of this project that we're about to talk about, Wheel of Time, in Cape Town and the Northern Cape, and that was pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
And then I've spent quite a bit of time in India too, and that's not for the faint-hearted. I've spent a good kind of 6 months traveling on a job actually in India, and that was
Wow.
amazing, doing some prosthetic work there. So I'm pretty
Wow.
fortunate. I've been to some pretty beautiful places. So
Nice. Do you still live in New Zealand?
I go backwards and forwards from New Zealand and Europe. I have a European husband, so we kind of travel between the 2 countries. So we're fortunate enough to be able to do that. But I have to say, I spend most of my time in Europe because, I do jobs that are quite long. So they're like 10, 11 months long. So
Wow.
yeah, lucky. I'm fortunate. It's very fortunate.
Yeah. That's super cool. New Zealand is like all the way across the world. I live in Washington, D.C., so you're like far, far.
Yeah, also not for the faint-hearted. It takes me about 40 hours to get home. So
Ooh.
yeah. So if you want to visit New Zealand, which is a wonderland, so
Yeah.
not for the faint-hearted to get there.
Yes, I love it. Well, I might try one day.
Yeah, give it a go.
Yes. What do people always tell you that you're good at aside from what you do professionally?
You know what? I think I have great communication skills. I'm calm when it comes down to it. I'm really calm, and I'm kind and I'm fair, which I think is, an overall just a nice human. So those are
Okay.
the kind of things that I live by, and I hope it comes across that way. But a lot of people say that, I'm fun and nice. So
I like that.
that's what I prefer.
Okay. Nice lady.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing at all. Since you're so adventurous, you like adventure, when is the last time that you did something for the first time? Have you had any new experiences lately?
Yeah, you know what? This is my first podcast, so we'll put that out there as you're the first.
Yay.
And probably like 6 to 7 months ago, I flew a plane. So like 20 minutes, 25 minutes of flying a plane. So that was pretty cool. I didn't mind
That
that.
you like to live life on the edge. Oh my gosh, fine. So did you take like lessons or anything like that?
Yeah, it was one of the first lessons, and my husband had bought it for me for my birthday, and I was like, yeah, let's give this a go, and yeah, and I loved it. It was great. And I love
Okay.
skydiving and, and hot air ballooning, and I do all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, so I didn't mind piloting a plane for a bit.
Wow. I would do the hot air balloon, but you got me with the skydive. And I always tell my friends and family, I would meet you on the ground and welcome you back. But I don't know if I could jump. I love to fly, so I can't see myself jumping out of a plane in a non-emergency situation.
Yeah, yeah. Surprisingly, I didn't mind it. I kind of let it go and just I went with a tandem, so I was lucky I had a support person at the back. So, but yeah, I was like, I'm nearly 50 now. If this is my time to go, I'm good.
Yeah. My Spanish teacher, she always used to say, like, when it's your time, it's your time. Like,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
yes, okay. Do you have any current, I'd say mini wins, like milestones that are leading up to a bigger goal? Do you have any of those that you've accomplished so far for the year?
Yeah, you know what? I started out the year, I've been in the industry for now 30 years, and I feel like I speak for a lot of people that in the industry, and especially makeup artists who are in there at, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and they leave at 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, and we do huge hours, whether it be 12 hours, which is still massive now, and it just seems 12 hours seems to be, the normal time an hour to do. And, and we go 15 to 18 hours sometimes, especially when you're doing prosthetics as well. And so I've been
Hmm.
doing this for like 30 years. And I decided this year that I really wanted to concentrate on like my health, not using, adrenaline and cortisol when you're working, and high stress, and how to manage all of that. So I would say
Hmm.
my biggest win this year is just kind of breath work and connecting, and it's something that I haven't done before, and I've really kind of engaged with it. And I think that it's super important for all makeup artists to kind of, just sleep is important. That's what I've learned.
Yeah.
Yeah, sleep is important. So and I'm normally the person that would just go, oh well, I've had 5 hours sleep, let's just keep going. But now that I'm getting older, I'm just like, no way, this is, I want my sleep. I want to try and get my 7 or 8 hours or long.
Yes.
So yeah, that I would have to say that's a big win this year.
Last one for the icebreakers. If you weren't a makeup department head, hair department head, prosthetics department head, is there anything else you can see yourself doing?
I originally, before I wanted to be a makeup artist, I originally wanted to be a sound engineer. So for the music industry. So that's where originally I was heading to. So if I wasn't doing that, I'd probably refocus back into music. And the other thing I wanted to do was to be a park ranger, believe it or not. I
Mm.
love animals, and I really wanted to go focus on, on animals. And so it was I'd have to say three completely different industries of where I
Right.
wanted to be. So, but yeah, I'd probably go back into any one of those two.
That's fun. I like animals too. I could see myself being like a veterinarian or something like that.
Yeah, me too. Surround myself with animals would be amazing.
Yes. Okay. Thanks for sharing. That was a fun icebreaker.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's very rare to find someone who is trained so thoroughly in makeup, hair, and prosthetics. Once you got into the beauty industry, was that something that you were intentional about, or did you just start with hair and then those interests grew over time?
Yeah, you know what? I started in makeup actually. I studied for a year in a school in New Zealand, and at that point, I thought I wanted to get into the theatre and be a makeup artist in hair in the theatre. And believe it or not, I've never stepped foot behind the scenes in a theatre company since.
Okay.
But I started out, and I knew that I wanted to learn as much as I possibly could within makeup field. And so I started doing free work, and I worked behind a counter. I worked for Longcom and Estee Lauder, and did sort of like weekend works while putting myself into free work onto, learning from as many makeup designers as I could. And I did that for about 2 years and started to
Mhm.
make a name for myself. And then I just started doing, part-time work, crowd work, And then that evolved into doing more hair work and a little bit of wig work. And then I landed a job on Lord of the Rings, so the big film. So
That makes sense. Okay.
I landed a job on that, and that's kind of where it started to take off. And I got trained first of all in wigs by two amazing artists, and it was Noriko Watanabe, who still works today in the industry and looks after, I think, Nicole Kidman. She's
Okay.
a fantastic artist and hairdresser. And then and also Peter Owen, and he was this amazing wig maker in the
Yeah.
UK. And so I got taught by him. He called me up one day and told me to come into the office. I was wondering what I'd done wrong. I was 19 at the time, and I was working in the crowd room on Lord of the Rings, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. What have I done? And so he pulled me in, and he was like, I want you to watch me how to ventilate or how to knot into wigs. And so I watched him for a bit, and then he goes, right, like, go ahead and start. And so out of pure frustration, because I was like, I don't want to be here, I'd rather be on a film set, what am I doing in here? And I started knotting. And then he said to me, you're either a person that picks it up in 10 minutes or you don't pick it up at all. And so I picked it up and I started running with it, and I
Like, no pressure.
no pressure. And he taught me everything I needed to know about wigs. And I didn't know, I was at 19, I didn't know what I had in the palm of my hands, you know what I mean? And it was just, I just thought, oh yeah, I'm just going to learn this, and then I'll quickly do this, and then I'll get back out onto set. And so, you know, I spent 3 months of making facial hair and stuff like that, and it was amazing. And then from there, after Lord of the Rings had finished, I went on to King Kong. And King Kong, I was in the wig making. I was making wigs for a shop called Wētā Workshop, which is a prosthetic shop in New Zealand.
Okay.
And so I started making wigs for them for King Kong. And Gino Acevedo, who was also a prosthetic artist on Lord of the Rings, he said to me, Davina, come up to my office and I want to show you how to airbrush. I want to show you, you know, how he paints. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Again, I didn't really know at 19, 20 what I had and what was being taught and who I was being taught by. And so, and he taught me everything there was to know about prosthetics. And so, and now to this day, he's one of my mentors, and still, you know, and we often talk, and you know, when I'm on a show and there's new things that are coming out, I talk to him, and there's new products, and he'll say the same to me. And so, you know, it was probably when I was turned like 23, and then I finally realized, oh my God, I just was taught by two of the best top people globally in the industry. And it's like a career highlight for me, because now I do makeup, hair, and prosthetics, and all of my jobs have wigs on them. And you know, and I have to say I owe it to these two gentlemen who took time to teach me this, you know, stupid 19-year-old. And obviously they saw something in me, and now that's kind of what I do. I take on all three departments. So yeah, so I'm pretty lucky. I'm pretty
Yes. That is incredible. I love the story of just having mentors and those people who see something in you. Obviously, they saw something, two different people in different areas of the industry, but saw something in young Davina and pulled her to the side and wanted to take you under their wing. And look at you now. You've gone on to do so many amazing things. That's incredible.
Yeah, and to this day, I have that same training regime on my team. So I mentoring for any artist that comes onto my show, and I make sure that there is a training regime within the department that is continuing. So and this is from these two men. So
I always get excited about like just not knowing what the future holds like when you were getting called and you like, "Is going to fire me?" You just never know like what the future holds. And now you've gone on to be department head of three different departments. I've never seen, I think that was like the most exciting thing I saw. It was like three departments. I have to talk to her. Like you
Yeah,
weren't
what is
just
she
the
doing?
like, what is she doing over there? So you were the makeup department head, hair and prosthetics department head for season 3 of The Wheel of Time. Like, what was your initial reaction when you realized like the full scope of responsibility you were about to take on?
Yeah, I initially got asked to come on for season two, so I didn't do season
Mhm.
one. Then for season two, I came on and I thought, and I'd seen some of the footage that had already been shot, and I was like, oh yeah, this is great. We can tackle this one. And at that point, I was just doing makeup and hair and wigs, and then it kind of I got inside the door and started reading the scripts, and I was like, oh my God, this is a monster of a show.
Yeah.
And then, you once you start trying to get your head into, the books and the scripts, is just so much to take on. And the amount of, I'd have to say, study, and the amount of there was a great we call her the Oracle, Sarah Nakamura, who was amazing, knew everything about all 14 books. And we
Wow.
would draw on her for any information, because it was super important for us to be able to when I say us, I think all the HODs, and especially like the costume designer who I was heavily worked or collaborated with. And it was super important for us to be able to meet the demands of what the fans were wanting. And there was so much in the way of tattoo work and high fashion hairstyles, and and prosthetics on top of that. And it was just
Mm.
this sort of movement that you just kind of had to jump on the train and
Yeah.
and let's go. And so when I was asked to kind of then on season 3 to also tackle prosthetics, and I did some prosthetics on season 2 as well, and then was tackle the three of them along with creature prosthetic designer Nick Dudman. He was also involved in, and I was like, yeah, let's do this. Let's I already kind of know the show from season 2,
Yeah.
and I knew that I could put a team together, and a pretty big team together, and tackle all three. So I was lucky. I don't think that these kind of shows come around a lot for people, and I feel extremely proud and of what we've accomplished. For
Yeah, that's incredible. Like, what was the process for hiring the team, or how many people did you have to get for this massive undertaking for all three departments?
Yeah, to take on a show like this, I ended up hiring 30 people.
Okay.
And that's just within my main team. I had 30 people, and then I also had 10 people in my workshop. So the people in my workshop, we were sort of manufacturing, some of the wigs, and we were doing all the hairstyling, and then I would do every single fitting on all the actors that would come in. And then I had a separate team that were tackling all of the filming work. So I had between 26 and 30, and then that would grow depending on what we needed to achieve. So I ended up bringing in, say, 10 more people for a period of time that would then tackle. We had like a whole kind of tribe of people that we had to have in red wigs. And so we had to make, a whole bunch of red wigs for them. So yeah, the team just kind of kept growing, kept kind of coming out of the woodwork. And so, hiring that many people, I go by, you want to have people that are like-minded. You want people that are fun, and not only with their talent, like some people would come with just braiding or just amazing hair work, and then they didn't have the makeup side. But we would kind of there would be teaching and training, and I'd show them blood work and dirt work and all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. So that's what I mean. It wasn't just, as much as I wanted everybody to be multi-talented in every sort of field, along with, makeup, hair, prosthetics, and, being able to make wigs and all that sort of stuff. It's not always doable. But I do try and hire people that are, I guess, multi-skilled. which is
Yeah,
easy.
have multiple talents. It's
Yeah.
easier to spread them across different areas. But
Yeah.
as the department head, what is it like having to go back and be like, okay, I need to hire more people? Or is it a little bit of resistance with like the budget and everything that you already have set forth?
Yeah, I was lucky, once I put the budget forward, I would then say, okay, you'd go back to the producers, you go, okay, well, for me to make 100 or 150 to 200 red wigs for what we shot in South Africa, I need this many people I need 10 more people for 10 more weeks.
Yeah.
And so I'd leave it in their court, because at the end of the day, as a designer, you are facilitating the script. And to facilitate the script, this is what you need. And so producers always have a budget in mind, but, on a show like this, you're always exceeding it.
Yeah.
And so I leave it up to them, and I say, this is what I require to be able to fulfill this part of it. And
Mhm.
if you want me to do that, this is what it is, and this is how long it takes. So they didn't say no to me. I don't think I had a no. I don't think.
I feel like it would be hard to say no to you. You just look like you're so sweet. You just go in there with a smile, like this is what I need.
I don't know about sweet. I think they'll come back and go, Davina's a bull basher.
Well, she gets it done, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's a typical, I don't know. I know every day is not the same, but what's a typical day look like for you on set when you're managing all of those different departments? Are you actually physically doing hair, makeup, prosthetics? Or are you just managing the people like on
Yeah.
shooting days and stuff?
Yeah, I'd say that I would go in on, because I did a few characters as well. I did Swan Sanchez, and I also did Maureen, which was Rosamund Pike. So I did her in South Africa. But so when we were in South Africa, I was mainly on set. Most of all the other work, the fittings and that had already been done prior, so it allowed me to kind of be on set more. And so for a typical day, I had my workroom started, between 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning, and we'd go through till 6 or 7. So it allowed me to go into the trucks and be a part, or tag team with people and be a part of the process in the morning and in the morning call to get them out. And then
Yeah.
after that, my workshop would start. So at that point, we'd have back-to-back fittings. I think we totaled 2,500 fittings. Yes,
What?
2,500 fittings. I know. I was collaborating with Sharon, the costume designer, and we were like, the number, it was huge.
Oh, wow.
And some of those, we didn't even get into like stunts and how many people, how many stunts there were as well per character. So we did 2,500 fittings. And so my time during that time was back to back doing fittings. And I would be a part of, I would do the makeup, and I'd have these amazing hairdressers who had already built multiple wigs. So if we were doing, the avant-garde and the high fashion wigs, I would know the ethnic of the cast member. I would know what they're coming to me with hair wise, and then from that I had a plethora of wigs that I could draw on at any stage. And so therefore I would then either build something that would be amazing in the avant-garde or high fashion look,
Yeah.
or I would start building some of the wigs that into these styles, so that when we were when we were, wigs on, I would probably have about 6 or 7 options, which was again amazing to kind of have that as you're in this sort of sandpit to be able to build and create. And I'd have all these hair pieces and all that sort of stuff as well. And so it allowed me to be able to create a character with the actor who, would also come in with their own ideas. And so we would start building together. And if the wigs were, if one of the wigs looked fantastic on them and it fit beautifully, then we'd go ahead and, start prepping for that for the second fitting. So
Mhm.
they would take off and come back with a full fitting. And sometimes we'd do up to 3 fittings
Wow.
character, because not every character would stay with the one look. Most of the time they would have between 3 and 4 different hairstyled looks or tattoos or
Yeah.
prosthetics. So it was just this kind of, we just keep bringing the characters back in for more kind of testing, more fittings as we read the scripts and realize what was happening. And then I'd have a whole bunch of stunts, if they needed a stunt double or a picture double. So it was crazy. And I know, looking
It's a
at this, and
lot.
I'm just going, how did we do that?
Because like when we look at movies and TV shows, we're just purely enjoying the entertainment, but people don't know everything that goes into creating the characters and just all of the behind the scenes. So I'm always so fascinated when I get to talk to department heads and things like that because it's like so much.
Yeah. And you kind of don't realize until you're in the doors about how big the show's actually going to be. And when you see it on television, you kind of go, oh yeah, there's just a few characters, but these characters just keep coming back and and it's just revolving. And so once you start looking at the magnitude of the characters that you come in on a daily basis, I think we ended up doing like between 6 and 7 a day fittings on separate characters. So it had,
So how do you keep track of for your set? How do you keep track of the continuity with each person? Are you taking pictures or how are you keeping track of keeping the looks together?
yeah, I think I obviously am a bit of a control freak. So I have I do hyper realistic like Photoshop whether on if I'm building like tattoos and prosthetics and
Mm,
stuff like that. And I have like a lookbook that I have for each character. And so
okay.
when I'm breaking down the characters, I kind of have these looks in mind. And then when Sharon, the costume designer, is kind of bringing in her looks, we play we're on the same page majority of the time, which is really, really nice. And so, we take photos that are on set and we upload them to Sync on Set.
Oh
And
yeah, I've heard
so,
that. Okay.
yeah, so that's it. And so from there, we are able to kind of keep track on all of the looks, and of course we never shoot in continuity order, and
Right.
always going backwards and forwards. You're always shooting a battle scene at the end and then you start at the beginning. And so and that happened a lot also on the show. And yeah, so we had a really good, fine-tuned kind of continuity. And you had to with the amount of stunt doubles and stuff like that as well. We really did have to, have all the hairstyles in the same look, and plus you're shooting in multiple locations. So
hmm
that also you'd have your lead actress in the studio and you'd be shooting, a different sequence with their stunt double, an hour away. So they had to match.
Wow, this is incredible. Wow, okay. So with the wigs, because you did mention the preparation that went into the wigs, I heard it was like 400 wigs, like a whole bunch of wigs. Sewn down for stunts and just like the extreme weather conditions and all of the different places that you shot. Is there a moment in particular that you're like really, really proud of that the viewers when they're watching the show, they may not realize like this is a victory. Behind the scenes, we had to fight to get this to look a certain way. Like, do you have a moment like that happened on this season?
Yeah, I think the first episode, to be honest with you, like the first episode was in the White Tower, and it was all of the women, all of the actresses were having this big battle within the White Tower. And every single one of them had to have a stunt double. So and we had all of these ladies in big, like high fashion or avant-garde hairstyles, and they had to be, you had to sew them in, and they were flying through the air. They were, they had, rubble thrown on them, or, big, but, just kind of big fight sequences. They were lifted in the air. It all kind of, and I have to say, not one wig was ripped, not one came off. So that is for me, that's a huge success to the team. And of course, when you're doing something like this, you have to do it with speed because you can't be, in the trailer for 2.5 hours trying to stitch them on. So, stitch the wigs on. And so, and I take my hat off to my team because they worked hard, and that was just the first episode, and
Right.
we had 7 more episodes to go. So I think that was probably an aha moment of success.
Yeah, people don't realize when you're watching it, you're like, oh, everything just went flawlessly. But I never even thought about the fact that the wigs are staying down during fights. I don't think about stuff like that. I'm just watching the movie and not realizing like the haircut. That would be crazy to watch a movie and see a wig fly.
Yeah, I've had it before though, especially when when they're kind of doing, I've had Kate Beckinsale on the one of the vampire shows. I can't remember it right off the top of my head, but yeah, one of hers came flying off, and that was just from a fight sequence. So yeah, so it's happened to me before. So I try and nail them down as much as I can now.
It's good. They need to teach some of these girls a lesson out here. Some people just be walking around with their wigs not sewn down these days. They
Yeah,
think the wigs ripped off.
yeah, scary.
Scary times. But when it comes to the makeup, I saw that you used Fenty Beauty as one of the brands for just matching the diverse cast that you had. What went into choosing the products that you were going to use for this project, just like to withstand the heat, the long days, the stunts, and like all of that?
Yeah, I think for me we had a huge diverse cast. And so I got in Fenty, I got in Nas, I got in Danessa Myricks, who I
Yeah, I'm
love.
obsessed. That's one of my mentors.
Obsessed. Yeah, I've gotten so many people onto Danessa Myricks, and we used a lot of her stuff. Pat McGrath, Giorgio Armani, and I started playing with, all of these different, foundations and correctors, and I'd have to say Danessa Myricks and Fenty were probably the biggest, foundation range that I would use for a lot of the, different diverse and ethnic cast. And yeah, so I think it, I have to, I treat each character, each person, you know, when they come into my chair, I have to kind of treat them, not differently. It's more like I want to start with whatever's going to be great for your skin, what is going to last for 14, 15, 16-hour days, what can I put blood on top of, what can I put dirt on top of, what is going to move, what's not going to move. And most of the time I'd go with cream base,
Okay.
and I would hardly use any powders. And we were shooting so fast that for me, using powders would mean that, the longevity, you would get till about lunchtime, and it would start, depending on who your, actor is, it would start to sort of crease, and you would start to it would start to look a little cakey. And so I preferred to go with the cream-based stuff, and I would use stuff like Ray Morris has this amazing silicon, it's like a silicon blotting, it's not a powder, but I
Uh-huh.
use that to kind of blot around, under eye, around the nose, in the T-zone, and it worked a treat. And it meant that I could then reapply, after lunch, and buff up the foundation, and it worked really, really well. And it didn't mean that I had to take off anything as well.
Right.
You want to be able to have products that are pliable, and also longevity, yes, but more so pliable, so that you can you have the range of a 16, 17, 18-hour day, and be able
Yeah.
to just kind of play. And I found Danessa Myricks, Fenty were amazing.
That is great to know because you were even shooting in some extreme conditions like the heat and everything. So in my head, I'm always thinking that you all would use a powder to just, keep things in place. But I like the idea of I've seen it over time if you use a powder and you keep using powder and powder to touch up, and then it just looks cakey.
Yeah, and I think in the Northern Cape, because we got up to 50, I don't know what that is in, we got up to 50 to 60 degrees, and I don't know what it would be in the US, but I mean, it was hot, but it was a dry heat. So we were lucky that we weren't in a humid, really humid
Right.
country. And so therefore, with dry heat, I was thankful for it. It meant that yes, you had to keep, you had to keep drinking fluids like, 6 liters a day, because you were expelling sweat, but it wasn't like you were in Thailand, or it wasn't like you were in India where you would
Right.
literally sweat everything off. And so we were lucky in that regard, and everything kind of just stayed perfect. And the only thing that we had to kind of with our actors, especially in the desert, was we had these amazing cooling towels, and we would dunk them. We'd have these big buckets of ice, cooler bins.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, cooler bins full of ice, and we would just dunk them in and put them around their wrists, and they would be around their wrists, around their neck, and that too was a huge help in kind of cooling everybody down, rapidly, is what they'd say. And so we were lucky. I think we got away with it in the nicest possible way, because I think that if we were in Thailand, it would have been, disaster.
Yeah. Makeup would have been melting off the face and a lot
And
of
to my prosthetics.
yep. All of that. Speaking of prosthetics, like what was your favorite one this season? Or do you have a favorite? Can you have a favorite?
Yeah, can I have a favorite? You know what? Rand, who was played by Yosha, he in episode 4, he played 6 of his ancestors. So
Right.
they had to go through Ruidian, and when they go into Ruidian, it was they had this, it was like they were drying. So in the script, it was like they had to show that they were drying on their skin. They had to show that they were drying on their lips. And as he went through each part of Ruidian, he would then transform into an ancestor. And so I got the pleasure of designing 6 of his ancestors, and he was going to be playing all of the characters. He'd not been in any prosthetics before. He had not worn contact lenses before. He'd been in some wigs, but not really. He hadn't had any, facial hair. And so all of this was going to be new to him. And of course, I was like a kid in a candy store. I was like, let's go. And so I started doing hyper-realistic images for all of his looks. And they all had to be from a 16-year-old boy right up to an 80-year-old man. And they had to be, he would be, being a fantasy show, he would go into the future. And so there were different looks for that. And then he played an 80-year-old man, where he had to also be in full prosthetics, in a graying wig, in a gray beard with contact lenses, and he would also have like a prosthetic neck on as well to kind of give him some width. And he would also have a suit on that was weighty, because he had to look like he's muscly, but he's slim, and so we needed to give him some width as well. And he did so incredibly well. I mean, we did so many fittings with him, and we knew that we were going to be shooting this character in the Northern Cape in the heat. And he once we put him into the prosthetic and the wigs and the facial hair and the contact lenses, he just said, Davina, I want to just have 2 hours, and just give me 2 or 3 hours where he could just go back into his room and just figure out the character, be one with the character, work out movement, work out his voice, work out everything, and how all of this was going to play. And he also had like aging prosthetic hands on. And so for someone that hadn't been in prosthetics before, this was just like, what am I doing? How's this work? And he did so incredibly well. And if I was to pick one, of the prosthetics, I would have to say it would have to be, Jonai, the old man. He just, to put a young man into an old age makeup is hard. And he took it on and he ran with it and he just looked phenomenal. So that would have to be my favorite.
Wow, you said you designed 6 of those looks from the episode 4. Like, what goes into just making it so that visually the audience can feel the shift? Like, this is not the same ancestor, this is a different one. Like, what goes into the creative process when you're designing those looks?
Yeah, I think it was we had the names of the characters. All I had was the names of the characters and at what part of the process they were going to be in, and all of them had to be a version of red hair, being an IEL race, and IEL race is they all have a
Red hair. Wow.
and so that was all that I knew. I knew that, one of them, it would say, 16-year-old boy, and, Jonai would say, I'm 86-year-old man. So that's pretty much all that I knew. And so from there, it was lots of discussions with Rafe, the showrunner, and it was lots of discussions with Sharon, costume designer, and we would kind of work it out. And then eventually I was like, right, I'm going to go away and start the process with my concept designer. And it was about, okay, as a 16-year-old boy, it'd be great to kind of have his hair, semi-long and rugged and wavy. He doesn't care about what his hair looks like. And so that was kind of the first image that we put up, and then that got approved, and then we started putting up, like, okay, the next one's going to be more of a warrior, and he needed to look like he's been in so many battles most of his life, and so he was hardened, and we needed to make him look withered and big and powerful. And so, I started designing that one, and that one there got approved, and it was just this process of like, right, we need to go with long hair, short hair, and as you go more into the future of him, you would see stuff like they would all, in the IEL race as well, they would all have rat's tails. And
Okay.
I love them. I think they're fantastic. And so I couldn't wait. And so, we managed to put a couple of rat's tails in there as well, so that, and so that would be great for, for the fans that knew the books really well. And so, yeah, so it was probably 2 weeks of going backwards and forwards with my concept designer to kind of fine tune it, and it looked hyper realistic, and so from there I was able to get my wig makers to build the wigs that we required in the color that we required, and then I was able to get my lens tech to start making some beautiful sort of blue green contact lenses, and then I was able to get, all the facial hair made up into the colors that would sort of match within the wig world. And and then they started the process on prosthetics, and building the prosthetics. And so it's a lot of people coming together. And I say a lot of people, and to kind of put this episode 4 together. So
That is incredible. Like they say, it takes a village. You got
yeah.
a whole village over there. I never even thought about the contact lenses, people designing the colors of contact lenses. This is crazy. It's so much.
Yeah. Christina Patterson in the US, she makes all my lenses and has done for many, many, many years. And I first met her on Lord of the Rings 30 years ago.
Wow.
5 years
Wow.
ago. I know. Yeah, she's a special human, that one.
Yeah, I love the relationship aspect of it too, where you can just continue to have that person that can continue to go on to different projects with you and everything.
Yeah, she's brilliant, and she's been making all of mine for so many years now. So
Yeah, for sure. What's like an unexpected lesson you've learned from working across all 3 departments that you think someone that may want to go into the same, following your footsteps should know? Like, what is the expected lesson you learned across all 3 departments?
with an expected lesson, all I could say is that for somebody, you know, I would say to any new person coming into the industry, I would say get into the crowd room, learn as much as you can in the crowd room, learn to kind of work with different faces, you know, different ages, different hair types. And then after that, you know, I love teaching, I love learning. And so every time I finish a job, it's all about, you know, learning something. You know, there's a lot of artists out there that would say, oh, I learned this on a show, and, you know, and they'd be doing lots of, you know, workshops in London. And so I try and get my team to go and do these workshops as much as I can, or bring people over to me, and teach the whole team. So I don't know if there's anything like that I could say off the top of my head, you know, you know, for the 3 departments, but all I can say is that, you know, for newbies, just keep mastering, and you don't have to be great at all 3 or all 4 or whatever it is that you want to do, but to be able to have the skill on going from any job and being able to go, actually, I learned how to lay on here onto a person, you know, on my last show, so now you can bring it forward onto the next show and again teach somebody else. And then, you know, and it may be something that I learned how to, you know, run prosthetics and pro bondos, and that's again is, you know, something that everybody I would think should know how to do. And so it's all about learning as much as you can so that you can be more of an asset to a designer, I have to say.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. When it comes to being a department head and being in the union, do the rules not apply with having to choose one field? Because I know like with the union, you normally have to choose hair or makeup, or you have to choose
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. So when so I'm not in the union because I don't work in the US. Yeah.
Oh,
So
so you all don't have a union.
no, we don't have a union. No. So
That's
we
like a good thing, kind of,
yeah.
sort of.
Yeah. So when I work in the Southern Hemisphere, like Australia and New Zealand, it's exactly the same. We can run all 3 departments. Same in Europe and same in the UK. It's slightly different in like Ireland. They have separate departments, and sometimes Budapest do too. But no one really has a union over this side. So it's actually really good. But when
Like,
you're applying for like the Emmys and stuff like that, then I have to pick one of the 3.
okay, so what are like the cons of that? Because I know the union protects you with certain things and making sure the wages and, just certain things are in place. So the pros and the cons of,
Yeah, the pros and the cons, I would say, because I have an agent, so therefore rates, the rates go through the agent to start off with. And then as a designer, I kind of know what the rates are in Europe and London. So there's like everybody, I don't know, there's some sort of book that comes out, or Big 2 has something that has most of the rates for everyone. So
okay.
it's pretty good actually. And people can negotiate, and more skills might get them better pay, which I'm all here for. So
Yes.
yeah, so I don't know. I think that yeah, I don't know. I don't, because I don't know the ins and outs of the union in the US. So I wouldn't know I couldn't actually say what the pros and cons were completely, but all I can say is it seems to work pretty well over this way.
Yeah, because I feel like you could work more freely. You don't have that barrier to entry with having to be a part of the union. I might have to move because I know one time I was working on a lot of projects trying to pursue being in the union. And then after a while, I just gave up. I was like, forget this because it's a lot of work.
Yeah, yeah, come and play over here.
Yes, I need to go play over there.
Well, I think it's great for some people who are amazing hairdressers, because they could go onto a show and do, and be in the crowd room, or be on the main team and just do wigs. And then they could go into another show and, they could do hair and makeup, or you can kind of pick and choose, which I think is great. And it keeps it healthy, and it keeps you on your toes, really, I think, instead of just doing sort of present day stuff. You can kind of dive into period and historical.
Wow.
Really cool.
Wow. So did you say in order to get an Emmy, you have to be a part of the union in the States?
No, so for me, if I have, so I applied, I got put forward for the Emmys for this coming season, and so therefore I have to choose if I want to be in the makeup, hair, or prosthetic. So in that side of it, it's horrible. And that
Which one would you choose?
I went into makeup this time around, even though the wigs were outstanding and the hair was outstanding. I decided this time around to kind of go into the makeup one, and we'll see what happens.
Fingers crossed. I can't
Yeah,
wait to see Emmy. I noticed, you've been nominated, but Emmy Award winning
yeah. It'll be
Davina
lovely.
Lamont. That's gonna be so exciting.
Yeah, it'll be more exciting, I think. It'll be exciting for me, obviously, but I really want my team to be acknowledged for their hard work, and that's why I'm pushing for them to be acknowledged and the accolades that come with it. So
Yeah.
I'm
That's
nothing without my team. We all know that. I'm
yeah,
nothing.
absolutely. So you have to tell us about Wētā Workshop. Like tell us what that is and like what you took away from that experience and working there.
At Wētā Workshop.
Yeah.
Workshop, I think it started to hit the mark when it came to, Peter Jackson, and he started this prosthetic workshop, and it kind of grew into like miniatures, and then during Lord of the Rings they would make all the miniature work inside there, and so I got to play in the hair department. So I got to learn the art of flocking. I got to flock all of these, horses and dogs, and it was really cool. It was probably one of the most fun things that I've ever had to do inside
Uh-huh.
the workshop. And then you get to do stuff like giant maquettes that go into museums, and you're starting to do scale work because the heads are not normal. They are 6 to 7 times the size, and so you have to work with scale and how to do eyelashes that are not the normal size eyelashes. They are
Right.
yeah, so you start to kind of learn all of these things and what to use, and you use like dog hair and yak hair and all of that sort of stuff. And so I learned so much in there by these creative geniuses. And Gino Acevedo was also in there at the time. So he, and it was like you got to have everything in front of you and you could just play and learn. And it was hard work getting inside the door, but once you were in the door, you were kind of part of the family. And
Yeah.
so I started taking on a lot of the hair department stuff. And then I'd go on to set with, some of the prosthetics, and keep learning that way from, how to paint, foam latex to how to paint silicone. And those are, if you could paint foam latex first and then learn how to paint on foam, it's you've got some wonderful skills under your belt. And so I am so blessed to be able to work with Wētā. And Wētā Workshop also took me to India to do prosthetics in India. So
Mm.
so it was a dream come true for 25-year-old woman at that stage to work with this amazing company and under the people that were my bosses in there. So I learned a
Yeah.
lot of different skills. It was really cool.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that you get to travel so much too. That's a dream for me. I love to travel. So if you get to travel and learn and get paid, I guess that's a
Yeah.
bonus.
Well, I think also you get to go to some locations that you wouldn't normally go as a tourist, and that is kind of breathtaking.
Yeah.
And when you're on jobs like Lord of the Rings and you go onto a film set, and you're kind of like you're taken back into this world, and it's truly amazing to kind of be transported. And then when you jump into a helicopter and you go up into these mountains, and you're just like, how did I land on a job like this? And it's breathtaking, some of the locations that I've been to.
Truly adventurous. I love it. Have you faced any, or what are some of the challenges that you faced with being in the TV film industry?
I think some of the challenges, let's put this on disturb, do not disturb. I think some of the challenges would be time. I feel like these days you don't get enough time to maybe put a character together. I feel like maybe since COVID and maybe since the strike, it's becoming less and less to kind of, you used to be able to you could have a character for like a week before they go on screen if you were lucky. Now I feel like they come the day before.
Wow.
They're coming maybe 2 days before. And so when you're kind of dealing with fantasy, that means that you have to be able to have, for me, all the wigs in stock, all the facial hair, hair coloring, just enough to be able to pivot left or right at any stage. And so I have a huge kit as well, so that allows me to kind of keep playing and develop a character. But yeah, I feel like the challenges these days is probably the budgets are coming down, I have to say, and time is not on our side at the minute.
Yeah, yeah. How do you balance like family life? Like you said, you were married. So how do you balance family life and the traveling, the long, extended times that you're on set for months and everything like that? How does that work?
Yeah, it's difficult when my husband is also on in the industry as well, so
Okay.
that definitely helps. So but if we can do it so that if I have to go for an away job and maybe he's about to finish on the job, he would definitely come with me because he's also a love of travel and adventure. So
Yeah.
he came to South Africa for 6 to 8 weeks, so we were lucky in that regard. But that it's difficult, and it's when if we have like a 2 days off, then we make sure that it's spent just us two to be able to reconnect, and because you're on these jobs for like 10 months or more, and so
Yeah.
especially TV, like I used to do film work, which you do like in 3 to 4 to 5 months, and now these big TV shows that go for 10 months to a year, it's a lot to kind of, to ask of your partner when you're away so much and traveling so much. And so
Hmm.
I'm lucky that we're both here in the same city together. And then when one of us kind of goes away, maybe it's just me working and he takes some time off so that he can be with me. And we're
Yeah.
lucky in that regard. And yeah, and then vice versa. If he needs to go somewhere, then hopefully I can go with him as well and I can take some time off.
Yeah. Do y'all have pets?
No, not anymore. And
Okay.
I did. I had a beautiful big old girl, a big dog, and yeah, but I can't at the minute. I desperately want some pets,
Yeah.
desperately. But I feel like I need to kind of like find my base, whether it be in Europe or in New Zealand, and just be, and maybe I don't travel for a bit, or we try and
I
figure
got you.
it out.
I don't travel nearly as much as you probably do for extended amounts of times. And I have a cat that is like, she is not happy with me traveling at all. She's been acting up.
You'd get told off every time you came home.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But Davina, have you thought about what you want your legacy to be with this line of work and the impact you're going to have on the people in the industry?
Yeah, I feel like mentoring, if I was to have a legacy, it's sharing knowledge and with artists, and it's continuing training on my shows. And I feel like I have been blessed by, I keep saying, Gino and Peter, that I've been blessed with them showing me their skills, and they didn't have to, and yet they kindly showed me. And so my legacy is to teach as many people what I've been taught, and yeah, I'd love for that to be my legacy more than anything else.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything that's coming up next for you that you can share? Is there a season 4? Is there?
Oh, we'll know. We'll know in a couple of weeks. We'll know in a
Okay.
couple of weeks. Yeah. So I really hope it'd be nice to kind of finish it off. And I know for Rosamund Pike, it would be great for her to finish the show. And she is a phenomenal actress and a beautiful collaborator. So I would love for season 4 to go ahead, and I know many other people would love it as well. And this season's been a huge hit, so fingers
Yeah.
crossed we get something. And at the minute, I'm working on a TV show in Prague, and it's called Ride or Die with Octavia Spencer and Hannah.
Nice. Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's completely different to what I've done, many times. It's present day, it's a comedy, it's action. Yeah, so I'm loving it. It's brilliant. It's fantastic. And I'm not having to do this big fantasy show for just a second. So I'm
Yeah.
really
I must say, like hearing your experience in the industry is really making me feel like maybe I should try to re-explore doing film and TV again.
Yeah,
Would you
come and
would you
play with
say it's a
me.
yeah, I'm coming over to Europe and New Zealand. Would you
Yeah.
say it's a little bit more manageable than just being a freelance artist, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, it's still difficult. Like the current climate at the minute, it's. I mean, I know in LA, it's really, I'm hoping it picks up there.
Mhm.
But also in since the strike, it hasn't really come back. And at the minute, I think, I've been talking to other HODs, and I think it's all about kind of who you know at the minute. It's producers that will call you back for shows when they get it, and I think it all is all about who you know, and so I think it's going to pick up again. The industry is going to come back in full force,
Yeah.
and I think at that point, if not now, if you could jump on a show, and I think it's probably a lot easier than freelancing. I think
Mhm.
I'm on it for like 5 or 6 months, or if not more. So, um,
It's
y-
stable.
it's stable. Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm. I just
Yeah.
had this random thought too before I get into the rapid fire questions. How do you think AI will affect what you do as far as them I know they're exploring like using AI to duplicate people in scenes and all of that. Like how will it affect you eventually?
I worry that they would, I worry that we might make up a character, do a one-off sort of shot with a character, whether it be prosthetics or a creature or something like that, and then the rest of the time it will be done with AI. That's what
Right.
I worry about for the rest of the show. Um, I think that AI is not going to go away, so it's just a matter of how this is going to play out. And I think that the new developments of AI is coming thick and fast, and I think, in another couple of months there'll be new ways of, dealing with AI, and I think that the fact that it's not going to go away, we can't kind of put our heads in the sand, and it is worrying. It is, I'm not going to lie, it is worrying. And I think it's worrying for a lot of people. And I do think that eventually the crowds will be done that way. And
Yeah.
I can't see, and I think knowing some of the budgets that are coming through for my department over the last kind of couple of jobs does also suggest to that they don't have the money for shows as much as what they used to, and so
Yeah.
therefore to build these massive crowd shots, I do think that it's going to be that way. So I don't know how it can't, in a way, and that makes me sad because I've learned so much in the crowd room, and I think
Yeah.
the can say the same. So I wish that it wasn't, but I have a feeling, unfortunately.
Mm. Only time will tell. I think we'll know within the next few years for sure. At least less than 5 years, I think we'll see it.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you.
Yeah, wow. But this has been incredible. Before I let you go, I have to ask you the Friends of Beauty rapid fire questions. They're not scary at all. I promise.
Sure.
So the first one is, what are the top three keys to your success so far?
I think communication, trusting my team in their artistic skills and letting them fly. I think patience.
I love it. How do you measure your success?
I measure it by by my peers who want to come and work with me, actually. That's how I measure it. And by producers or directors who ask me to come back and work for them. So that's how I see it. Yeah.
Yep. What's the best advice you've ever received, or just like a piece of advice that always sticks with you?
It would be to be transparent on your abilities and your skills. Actually, I'm always transparent. I like to live that way, and I think that if you're transparent in your skills and your abilities, if you're on my team and you'll get trained wherever you are. You'll be showing a skill, and so that would be the one thing: be transparent.
I love that. What advice would you give to another department head right now who is just having a difficult time managing everybody on set, and they're just like, maybe I should just demote myself. I need to go back to key or just be, a part of the crew.
I would, you know what? I'd say go into the crowd room, because that is so much fun. And over this way, you in the crowd rooms is mainly with HODs. To start off with, and so that is so good, and it's so good for the soul. I would say find the joy in what you're doing, and why you wanted to be in the industry in the first place. These things will pass. Just dig in and surround yourself with like-minded people.
Absolutely. What's a resource that helps you in your business as a department head that you can share with the Friends in Beauty community?
Masterclasses, whether online or in person, makeup trade shows, I would say museums, the powder group.
Yes, the powder group. I'm a big fan of the makeup show and the powder group.
Yeah. So those would be the resources, internet, books. I have so many books, and so they're all the resources that I pull from.
Also, so the last one is just a statement that I want you to repeat and just say, my name is blank. And the key to longevity and success is whatever you think it is.
Got it. My name is Davina. Success and longevity is believe in yourself, think outside the box, and kindness.
Believe in yourself, think outside the box, and kindness. This has been so great meeting you and talking to you. Oh my gosh. So before you go, please share your social media, however you want people to continue to connect with you and follow your journey.
Yeah, I'm mainly on Instagram. It's Davina Lamont Makeup Designer. So you can get me on there. And I'll have to say, if you reach out to me on my email or on Instagram, I 99.9% of the time will answer you back, because I have been a trainee, I have been a junior, I've been a makeup artist looking for work and wanting information. So I like to give back. So I will absolutely endeavor to respond.
Yeah, we appreciate you for giving back and for sharing your experience here on the Friends of Beauty podcast. I'm excited to continue to follow your journey, and you have truly inspired me to maybe look into exploring that field a little bit more. But I'm so appreciative. Yeah, I'm so appreciative for your time, though.
Thank you so much. I loved it, and you were phenomenal. So thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Friends in Beauty podcast. Don't forget, sharing is caring. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with another friend in beauty. Give it a thumbs up and subscribe, rate, and leave a 5-star review so that other friends in beauty can find the show. Plus, we'd love to hear your feedback. Connect with us on all social media platforms at Friends in Beauty, #Friends in Beauty to join the conversation, and join our Friends in Beauty Facebook community to stay connected. Talk to you soon.